Sandra, really nice to see you. Look, I'm in Plymouth today because I'm going for an interview, second interview actually. So this is the second live stream I've done. I can't stay on long because literally I only have X amount of battery power that I have to save for the Plymouth interview and everything, but it's really super cool. You can see the statues here. Yeah, statues here. So, but I have a really important message to share with you today, and that is to not listen to advice from sexuals. Yeah, when I say not listen to it, some of what they say is very valid, but if, say you had an asexual relationship and you were having problems, one of the worst things you can do is just listen to, for example, heterosexuals, because they don't think the same way that we think some of the time, you know? Don't forget, with heterosexuals you can pretty much get a relationship quite easily. When you've got an asexual that you may be highly compatible with, but you've just got some problems you need to work through, you know, if you're there listening to heterosexual, they might not understand where you're coming from, because asexuals have different types of relationships. Their relationships are not based on sex, they're based on emotional, deep emotional connection, deep emotional bond. And that's why we can have a lot of problems in relationships, because it's that deep emotional connection bond that needs to be maintained and nourished. And because there's no physical element, or there's less of it, as it were, there's no sex, it means you've got to work a lot more harder on the emotional connection side of it, which a lot of sexuals, they don't experience the same deep emotional connection. They don't just love in that way. So for them, they're coming from a completely different angle. When I was actually in a dating scene, you know, I was dating the heterosexual guy for a couple of months. I was having some issues with him, which I'm glad I left him. He was very dangerous in the end. But yeah, when I had an entrepreneur that was trying to help me out, and he said he was he'd been a marriage coach. And then when we were talking through the conversation, it suddenly dawned on me. He started talking about, well, I don't really get it. I'm like, what? He goes, well, I don't really get the whole asexual thing. So when he was trying to give me advice, he was actually giving me advice from a heterosexual point of view and what he's used to in typical relationships. We don't have typical relationships, so therefore, when sexuals try to actually give us advice on our asexual relationships, it's not going to be as necessarily good advice, because they don't understand the dynamics of how we work within that relationship and how asexual relationships work. They're completely different. You know, that the trust is based on a much more deep emotional connection level, and about sustaining that deep emotional connection level through lots of chatting, communication, open communication, and being completely honest with each other and building up trust over a long period of time. A lot of asexuals have experienced abuse in our life. It doesn't mean to say that we're not asexual just because we've experienced abuse. A lot of people have experienced abuse, right? But this includes us too. And it might have been physical, it might have been mental, emotional, or sexual, it could have been anything. And therefore we do have past baggage. And we all do. We have to work together if we're in a relationship to foster the understanding, the caringness, the love, and to nurture and grow each other into better people, and for the trust to build up. You know, something that really irritates me is when people just think trust should be given. It shouldn't just be given. Trust is earned. And if you think it's your given right to have anyone and everyone trust you, that is not a good person, you know, that does that. You should inspire and instill trust in people by what you talk about, your actions and everything, but you should always know that you don't have the right to just be trusted. You earn that trust over time. And I hope that's been useful to you today. So beware, if you're struggling in relationships, if you're struggling to get relationships, and all you're doing, for example, is talking to sexuals like heterosexuals, bisexuals, you know, anyone in sort of the sexual sphere, particularly heterosexuals, which are very conformist, traditional relationships usually, you have to be aware that the advice they're giving you might not be very good for you, because they're not in your situation, they don't understand asexuality or where you're coming from. So just keep that in mind, and pay attention to who you're listening to. Are you listening to yourself, your intuition, your heart, and your mind, and your soul, or are you just listening to other people because you know you're struggling, and you just want to listen to what they hear for the sake of it, and then think, oh yeah, they've got good points. You know, people who are heterosexuals, for example, who are very carefree in their life, don't really need to settle down with a partner, don't really care, you know. Do you really think they're going to be the best people to talk to you about having a serious relationship? No, they're really not. And you can get asexuals like that. I've come across some asexuals, particularly on the more grey side of the spectrum, and they're like happy-go-lucky, you know, and all they're looking for is a bit of fun and a bit of flirting, and that's all they're after, you know. So if you went to someone who was fun, flirty, sort of, yeah, look at happy-go-lucky type, do you think if you go to those type of people and you're going to try and talk to them about a serious, committed relationship, you're really going to get the intelligent answers to foster a long, committed relationship that you really want from that person? No, because they've got different values and different beliefs. So it's not just a case of sexuals, it's a case of values and beliefs. If you're, you know, I was talking to someone recently, an asexual guy, and he likes being flirty and stuff. He doesn't want a committed relationship. So I said, oh, straight away, well, that's great. I think, you know, I respect you as an asexual, respect where you're coming from, you know, we can be friends, but definitely different relationship goals, you know, definitely at different places in our life, you know. I would never be able to have a relationship with you, basically. And we just established that straight away, and I felt so good. I do not want to end up in a relationship with a guy who doesn't treat me with respect, who doesn't value my worth, and doesn't want to work on building trust in the relationship. I don't want that type of thing ever again in my life. It's very hurtful, very painful, and sometimes people just listen to everyone instead of actually taking advice themselves and knowing what's in their heart is right. Anyway, I hope that's helped you. I've got to get ready to eat something and go for my second interview. Lots of love to you. Thanks for all your support. Be kind, be good to each other, be really, really understanding. Know that if you find a really good person for you in a potential asexual relationship, that's super special, you know, and you need to nurture that, work on it, and help each other to grow. Till next time, embrace your quirky and each other's. Bye bye.